with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you, Lord.
En aquel tiempo, cuando Jesús iba de camino a Jerusalén, pasó entre Samaria y Galilea. Estaba cerca de un pueblo, cuando le salieron al encuentro 10 leprosos, los cuales se detuvieron a lo lejos y a gritos le decían: Maestro, ten compasión de nosotros. Al verlos, Jesús les dijo: vayan a presentarse a los sacerdotes. Mientras iban de camino, quedaron limpios de la lepra. Uno de ellos, al ver que estaba curado, regresó alabando a Dios en voz alta. Se postró a los pies de Jesús y le dio gracias. Era un samaritano. Entonces dijo Jesús: ¿no eran 10 leprosos los que quedaron limpios? ¿Dónde están los otros 9? ¿No ha habido nadie fuera de este extranjero que volviera para dar gracias a Dios? Después le dijo al samaritano: levántate y vete, tu fe te ha salvado. As Jesus continued his journey to Jerusalem, he traveled through Samaria and Galilee. He was entering a village, and 10 persons with leprosy met him. They stood at a distance from him and raised their voices, saying, Jesus, Master, have pity on us. When he saw them, he said, go show yourselves to the priests. As they were going, they were cleansed. And one of them, realizing that he had been healed, returned, glorifying God in a loud voice. He fell at the feet of Jesus and thanked him. He was a Samaritan. Jesus said in reply, 10 were cleansed, were there not? Where are the other 9? Has none but this foreigner returned to give thanks to God? Then he said to him, stand up and go. Your faith has saved you. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Feliz Día de Acción de Gracias a todos. As I said at the beginning, every time we come into this place, it's simply to give thanks to God. And to help in our reflection today, I'm going to preach on the responsorial psalm that Val sang so beautifully for us, Psalm 145. David's song of praise. And this song of praise of David's, since it's Psalm 145 and there's only 150 psalms in the book, it's obviously towards the end of David's lifetime. We believe that David is the traditionally one who is accredited with writing the Psalms. And so I was imagining that if it's towards the end of the book, it was towards the end of David's life as well. So I'm imagining this old man who's reflecting on his life, and he sings this song of praise to God. And the thing about this Psalm 145, there's no petitions, there's no asking for anything. It's just pure, unadulterated praise of God. He is thankful to God. And the beautiful thing about his hymn of praise is his thankfulness is he's not thanking God for the sun and the moon and the stars and the rain and the things that God gives us, like the meal that we're going to share this afternoon. He's thanking God for God simply being who God is. You know, and I think it's important for us to remember that, especially on this day of Thanksgiving. You know, when we think about the people who we are thankful in our lives. And obviously when we think about them and we're thankful, it's not what they do. You know, I'm thankful to the parishioners because you put money in the collection. No, we're thankful for you because of who you are. In the same way, hopefully you're thankful for me and the other Redemptorists because we are a part of your lives, a part of your community. Not because of the fact that we give good homilies or we give bad homilies or whatever it is. We are thankful for one another for who and what we are. As families, as husband and wife, children, the many people who bless us in many different ways. It's not what they do for us, it's because of who they are. And so that's what King David is doing in this Psalm 145. He's blessing God because of who God is. So as he begins the psalm, he says, I will exalt you, God, my King, and bless your name every day and praise you forever. And he goes on to say that his praise for God is something that is continuous, in the morning, in the noon, and the night. And then he goes on and he says, the ages proclaim your works. So he says, not even just I am here to give thanks to you, but he remembers those in the past. And he says, that's what the generations have done before. They have given thanks to God. And then he goes on thinking of us and says that God's people will be gathered in Whittier, California in 2000. No, he doesn't say that, but he says the people in the future, we will also give thanks to God. And that's what we come to do today. We obviously thank God for God's many blessings for us, but most especially we thank God for who God is. David goes on and he thanks God for his compassion and for his mercy. And we know the story of David. We know that David was a sinner. And so when David thanks God for his compassion, he's not just sharing mere words. It's obviously something from his own experience and from his own life. He experiences God, compassion and mercy and forgiveness. And when we think about all the many gifts and the blessings that God has given us, that really is the one that is the most important, the one that we can never have too much of, the one that will last forever even after we've gone from this face of the earth. God's mercy and compassion and forgiveness is what gives us the gift of eternal life. Pope Francis, when he was in New York a few years ago, he wrote on thankfulness, and he said, speaking of gratitude, if we are joyful believers, we will attract others to God. Joy springs from a grateful heart. Truly we have received so much, so many graces, so many blessings, and we rejoice in this. And what Pope Francis then does is he says, he invites us to remember our lives with a grace of remembrance, to remember when we were first called, to remember the road that we traveled, the people that we have traveled with, remember the graces we received, and most especially to remember how we encountered Jesus along the way. In so many different ways and different times, how Jesus has come into our lives. He says, let us seek the grace of remembrance so as to grow in the spirit of gratitude. Para su reflexión quiero ofrecerles el Salmo 145 que Val había cantado para nosotros. Y este salmo es del rey David, simplemente bendiciendo a Dios por todos los beneficios que hemos recibido de Él. Pero más importante, no solamente de los beneficios, sino de Dios por lo que Él es. David empieza diciendo, yo te bendiciré día tras día. Alabaré tu nombre hasta que me muere. Y David está diciendo que siempre está agradecido. Y después continúa siguiendo diciendo que una generación poderé a la otra tus obras y proezas. Que David recuerda a todos los que han agradecido a Dios. Esta es nuestra vocación como cristianos, de ser agradecidos. Obviamente para nosotros no es de un día. Todas nuestras vidas es para decir gracias a Dios. Y por eso estamos aquí hoy en día. No solamente por los beneficios que hemos recibido, pero simplemente porque Dios es nuestro Dios.